Welcome to Week in Review, a recap of events and issues pertinent to Central Illinois. I'm WMBD Radio News' Caleb Kelch. The Center for Prevention of Abuse holds its 38th annual duck race this weekend. WMBD Radio's Julia Bradley spoke to CEO Carol Myrna about the event and how it supports the organization.
What number duck race do we have this weekend?
We're at the 38th annual duck race. Hard to believe 38 years in a row, but 38 years strong.
Wow. Now, I know the ducks typically sell out every year. Where are you guys at right now?
We have 2,100 ducks left to sell. So I switched from we have to hurry and sell all the ducks to get your ducks before they're gone. We want to make sure that we're sold out, but the community always rallies and comes around, and we're thankful for that. But we've got till Saturday at 1, and we need to sell those 2,100 ducks, and I have every confidence we're going to be able to do it.
Now, tell us what some of the top prices are. I mean, besides the number one prize, tell us what some of the top prices are for the duck race.
So 15 lucky ducks, of course, top prize $10,000, as you said. Second prize is $5,000. $2,500 is the third prize. And then we go into some actual prizes that have been purchased, like an iPad package, a travel package that would include a gas card and luggage and a gift card to Hotels.com. We've got a Skyline calendar, a Bird Buddy feeder, some really fun things that I know I'd like to have. So I think everybody else will really enjoy if they're able to get one of the lucky ducks. And all that happens Saturday at Eastside Center. Fun starts at 11 and races at 1.
Now tell us how the race actually works. I know there's like a huge slip slide, right?
There is a 1,000-foot water slide that the East Peoria Fire Department is very kind to construct for us. And all 35,000 ducks that have been adopted will be in a giant Caterpillar dump truck that will dump the ducks out on that water slide. And there'll be some fire hoses to encourage their swimming. And they'll head all the way down that hill. It's really fun to watch. And the first 15 ducks across the finish line win prizes for the people that adopted them at $5 a piece. It's a great deal, and the odds are wonderful. 35,000 sounds like a lot of ducks, but it's a really fun way to make a real serious difference in the work that we do at the Center for Prevention of Abuse.
Now, have you guys had some photo finishes where those ducks are so close?
You know, there's usually maybe 2 or 3 that are really out front for no particular reason other than that's just the way that they came off the truck. And the ducks go on randomly. It doesn't matter if you bought them the 1st of June or if you bought them 30 minutes before the race. And it's usually 3 or 4 of them that head down first. And we've got a team ready to pluck up the ducks that come across first. And we're very adamant about that. We are very careful to make sure that it works like it's supposed to.
Now, of course, this is all fun and games on the day of the duck race, but what that money those ducks do for the Center for Prevention of Abuse is pretty amazing. Tell us about that.
It is. All the services that we provide to survivors of abuse is 100% free of charge and 100% confidential. So the funds that we raise from our signature fundraiser, the duck race, go 100% to client care. So that could be somebody staying in the shelter. It helps pay for their food, for their essentials while they're staying with us. Perhaps we're helping them find a place to live. All of that is where the duck race goes. But it also goes to therapy. We have a team of 10 master's level therapists that see people whether their abuse happened 3 hours ago or 30 years ago. And we're there, and those services are free, and we believe people when they come to us. We have elder abuse, people that go out into the community, and when we get a phone call about alleged abuse, we'll go to that person's home where they're at, and we will meet them where they're at to talk about what's happened and let them know that we're there to help. Human trafficking is a big part of what we do. We not only help survivors with whatever the care is that they need, and we're one of the few downstate providers that do that, but we also educate. We share the institutional knowledge that we've gained over the last 51 years in all of our services to talk about what does this abuse look like? How do we stop it before it starts? And that we're here for you, and we want to help care for you if you've already encountered it. But abuse of adults living with disabilities And our prevention education is always an important part of what we do. Last year, reaching over 42,000 students with lessons about how to keep their bodies safe, peaceful conflict resolution, healthy relationships, empathy, all the things that we want our kids to know from a social and emotional learning standpoint. So really important stuff. We serve over 6,000 people a year, just mostly from Central Illinois. So we're really blessed to be able to do that. But I think if our services were not there, it would be very much noticed by the community.
Now, I know that the Center for Prevention of Abuse is in Peoria, so people, may not know how far out your services go. Aren't they throughout the state, really, aren't they?
For some of our services, so everything we do covers Peoria, Tazewell, and Woodford County. And we're the only agency in the state that has all the sanctioned services that we do under one roof. So that's a big job. But then for a couple of our departments, we stretch into Fulton, Marshall, and Stark counties. But for human trafficking, we are funded and sanctioned to cover anywhere we're called to go, typically throughout Illinois. And we have trained many communities for what is human trafficking? What does it look like? What do I do if I think I've spotted it? And how do I keep myself safe? So really important messages that actually help bring clients to us that need help, but also help keep communities safer and more peaceful. So that's a big job, the entire state of Illinois. We're bringing more people on board to help with that. It's even though human trafficking's been around forever, it's still fairly new to a lot of people. So we are encouraging other victim service providers to join us because it's so big. It's the second largest crime in the world, and there's room for everybody at the table. But how lucky are we to be able to play a leadership role at the Center for Prevention of Abuse?
Absolutely. And you guys have a 24-hour hotline, too, don't you?
We are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Does not matter if it's Christmas morning, middle of the night, middle of the workday. There will be a human in Peoria that will answer the call at 1-800-559-SAFE or 7233, and we will walk them through whatever it is they're going through, or if they've got questions about how do I help somebody I care about. We're there to be able to provide guidance and advice, but also if somebody needs a safe place to come, we're most certainly going to welcome them and talk them through that.
Now, Carol, you've been with Center for Prevention of Abuse, I know, for many years now. What is it that you see the biggest changes since you joined Center for Prevention of Abuse?
When I started, which was in 2015, we were serving just under 5,000 people a year. We're now serving over 6,000 people a year. I don't think that there's more abuse because abuse has been around for a very long time. I think that more people are discovering the Center for Prevention of Abuse, where we are and how to find us. Since all of our services are free and confidential, there's very little barrier when you are ready to receive services to actually asking for help. The hard part is getting to the point of being ready to ask for help. It's very hard. It takes a lot of courage to find your voice, and there's a lot of reasons that people can't reach that point for a while. But when they're ready, so are we. And I love being able to share that with people and opening our doors. So when people want to say, hey, what's behind those doors? Let's take a look. I want to share that with people. It's a place of joy. There's a lot of hope and a lot of people that work there. We have 150 staff that absolutely love being able to make a difference in the lives of people in the community. And everybody knows somebody that's been affected by abuse. So it's closely connected to everybody in the community, whether they may realize it right now or maybe later.
Okay, and again, that's where the money from the duck race goes. It funds all of that programming that you've mentioned the last several minutes. That's where that money goes directly, right?
100% of duck adoptions will go directly to all of those care and services that we provide people, mostly, again, from Central Illinois. So it stays local, and we are very fortunate to be a great investment, but also be able to use that money wisely with people that really need it.
Okay, Carol, one more time. Tell us where people can get their ducks before Saturday's race. We know you may sell out. I mean, we hope that you do sell out, but how do they find the ducks right now?
So the easiest way is to go to duckracepeoria.com. A couple of clicks. It's very simple to be able to adopt your ducks, usually within less than 3 or 4 minutes to be able to get that done. So duckracepeoria.com. But if somebody is averse to using the computer, and that would be people like maybe my mom, she doesn't want to do that. She wants to get on the phone and call somebody. Call our main campus at 309-691-0551, and Selena in our front office will be absolutely delighted to help somebody that calls that wants to buy ducks. So we'll take care of you, but get them while supplies last. We're getting close.
Again, the duck race is Saturday. What time does it start at Eastside Center?
Fun starts at 11. So food trucks, a live band, some games for the kids, and then the race is at 1 o'clock. So come out and join us.
Carol Myrna from the Center for Prevention of Abuse, thank you so much for filling us in today.
After the break, how to handle chronic nuisance problems in Peoria. Welcome back to Week in Review. I'm Caleb Kelch in the WMBD Radio Newsroom. There's an issue raising some alarms throughout the community in Peoria. Chronic nuisance problems. What can you or the city of Peoria do when it comes to issues with neighbors and neighborhoods? WMBD Radio's The Phil Luciano Show talked to Community Development Director Joe Doolin about the matter.
You know, lately in Peoria, there's been a lot of talk about chronic nuisance properties and how to best address them. We're talking mostly about apartment rental properties. With us right now to discuss possible options, and this is to put some teeth into code enforcement, make life better for renters, all good stuff on that end. Talking about this right now, Community Development Director Joe Doolin. Joe, once again, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So I've seen some of these stories that have popped up recently, last few weeks or whatever. The one, if we could start at the base here, is what are some of the nuisance concerns that have been cropping up that have got the attention of the city?
Yeah, so, the city of Peoria is in a fairly strong position to address kind of housing issues in our community with some of our code enforcement tools. What we've discovered, kind of what we're looking at, is we kind of lack some of the stronger ability to address some of the nuisance issues that happen at apartment complexes or even houses in general. So when we talk about nuisance items, it means, if there's constantly parties at the property, if there's criminal trespass in different areas, if there's just kind of any elements of crime that are continuously occurring, the city can hopefully with this ordinance, if council decides that they want to go that direction, be able to put some parameters on it where if you keep allowing these to happen as a property owner or manager, then you need to make some other decisions on how you're going to prevent that going forward. And I think our police have an excellent ability to address the crime when it happens, but hopefully these things put in place allow crime to be prevented going forward too.
And not by any means to give short shrift to those issues, because obviously if you live there, you want those things taken care of. But is this a matter of the city has noticed an increase in these, or is it just, hey, we've been looking into this and now's the time to take care of it?
Yeah, I don't think we've necessarily seen a giant increase kind of in the complaints or what we're seeing at these properties. I think, with multifamily apartment complexes, you're always going to have a certain amount of issues just with a more dense population there. I think what we saw and why the changes are coming forward now is a need to update the ordinance. It hasn't been updated in quite a while. We went through a lawsuit a few years back that kind of forced us to keep the ordinance in place the way it was, and that's expired. We're out of that, so we can make some changes. And I think some of the changes we identified address the concerns that we're seeing. I think the main point of the ordinance is to put some of that responsibility back on the property owner to police their own site, and that takes a little bit of pressure off the police department about having to proactively do that. I think, with everyone, resources continue to be limited, and more departments are stretched thinner, and these types of ordinances and the things that this ordinance could create an apartment complex to do would just put some of those proactive measures in place and hopefully alleviate some of the stress put on our police department.
And when would this ordinance be talked about, voted on, that kind of thing, these changes? Is that coming up really soon, or?
Yeah, so the ordinance was put in front of council as a first reading at the last meeting about last Tuesday. They deferred it for 3 weeks, so it'll come back in about 3 weeks' time for council for another discussion. Council might still have questions, so they might defer it. So probably you're looking kind of late fall if this does get passed to go into place.
We'll get into some of those specifics in just a second. I know one of the ideas Councilwoman Denise Jackson proposed that if for the bigger apartment complex, 50 units or more, they'd have to have 2 staff members on site, an on-site property manager, 1 or 2 security guards, video surveillance, which is admittedly a really great idea, but it would seem to be along the lines of, well, if we had police on every street corner, we'd reduce crime. This would all work. But it just would cost too much money, right? And isn't that where the city is with that sort of idea?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you just look at the logistics of that, it obviously is great for those apartment complexes because you are making them safe. There's more security presence there, but it's also just not a super realistic. It's not super realistic for those apartment complexes to operate that way. It's a very complex discussion but essentially they're capped at a certain amount of rent they can even charge at a lot of these apartment complexes. So there's not even ability to raise rent on tenants to go after these fees. So the amount of money it would pay to do all those things just don't equal out with what you could collect in rent. Thus, we already have kind of a lack of affordable housing in our community, and that could potentially make it worse. So I think that's what staff kind of offer an alternative of, acknowledging and appreciate Councilman Jackson's concerns about trying to make these apartment complexes safer, but let's try to kind of fine-tune it and maybe only go after the ones that are causing the largest issues, and let's see what we can do to kind of work with them to put these security measures in place. So hopefully keep the housing open, keep it running, but just make it safer.
Gotcha. We are talking with Joe Doolin. He is the Community Development Director for the City of Peoria. And when this issue of the changes in the ordinance comes back, what are some of those aims? What are some of those changes, some of the teeth that the council is considering? Yeah,
it doesn't actually drastically change a lot what's already in the place. We've had a nuisance ordinance for years. Past council have really championed the use of it. So we have one in place. We've utilized one in the past. What this does is changes the time limit a little bit. The previous ordinance wasn't completely clear about the parameters. So essentially it said if you had 3 instances, so 3 types of crime, 3 trespassing, or 3 like that in a 6-month period, but it had to be related to one unit in an apartment complex. The way that's written, it's almost impossible for a property to ever be considered a nuisance ordinance.
You'd have to be really out of control, crazy, for that many.
Correct. This would expand it to within a year, so 3 instances in a year in the entire in the entire apartment complex. In addition, it expands one of the things that could cause you to qualify for this is if you're in your common areas or your common spaces, you are not addressing trespassing issues. One of the things we have heard is people trespassing in common areas, sleeping under stairs, and the management companies not proactively looking in those areas, cleaning up of those areas. And this specifically would allow us to also qualify them as a nuisance ordinance if they met that criteria. So those are just those are the main 2 changes to what we're looking at. And then it also gives our administrative hearing officer process a little more teeth to what they could require an owner to do. We don't want to put in so many things that they go out of business, but we do want to make sure that they come to the table, they talk with us, we put together a plan with the police department of what could realistically be done to change the quality of life for the residents of that apartment complex.
Because your job, you're not trying to jam them up like, aha, gotcha. It's, hey, we need to make this better.
Yeah, and we've seen kind of in more in my world than in the police world, but in code enforcement, when we get in front of an apartment complex, we know about the issue and we communicate with the apartment complex owner. We usually get good results. And I think this nuisance ordinance allows the police to have a similar path forward with these property owners to say, hey, we could fine you, we could do this, we don't want to, so come to the table, let's find a solution together, let's work how we can make lives better for your tenants by addressing these issues so you can continue to run a profitable business and the city of Peoria can continue to have good quality affordable housing.
You brought up that interesting example of the trespassing, of people hanging out or even sleeping on a property, which is one of those that maybe those of us who don't live in these big apartment complexes don't even think about. Is that an element, Joe, of the tenants having people over and staying unauthorizedly, or is it a matter of people without housing finding a place to sleep and just staying for the night, that type of thing?
Probably a little bit of both. I mean, I think that the reality, and it's no secret that in Peoria, the last few years we've really been trying to address the homelessness issue in our community and have made some strides, but we continue to see it out in the public. And when someone who's unsheltered and it's raining, they're looking for a place to stay that's safe, they're not necessarily very picky with where they go and don't go. And if there's open access to one of these, or they know someone in the building and they can go to a stairwell, that's at least better than sleeping outside. So there is a sense of compassion that we have when we're trying to approach this situation, and I think that's part of the plan we can put together with the police and the apartment complex is, okay, when you see this happening, what kind of resources can we connect that person with? Who can you call to provide some outreach efforts to try to see what they need to get help that they do? And so that's why if we can kind of work together on a plan to address those issues, we can also kind of also make it a positive to see what sort of resources we could offer to those that need help.
Because that helps the person who's looking for shelter and needs shelter that time. Meantime, the folks who live there, they're like, well, we don't know who these people are, and they're not necessarily trying to be not compassionate. They're just, they got families and whatnot, right?
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what we're trying to do is kind of, we understand where the tenants are coming from. At council 3 weeks ago, some tenants in an apartment complex came and kind of expressed their concerns and fears of what they're living with, and we don't want to hear that. I mean, it's heartbreaking for someone to kind of not feel safe in their apartment complex or not feel safe where they live. And whatever we can do, whatever tools we can refine, we want to try to do that. But we can only do so much without the cooperation of the property owner or property manager. And the changes to the ordinance allow kind of a more forced cooperation with us from them.
Gotcha. And again, when is that going to be considered again by the council?
I believe it goes back to council in about 3 weeks.
Okay, interesting stuff. We'll be following that. Joe Doolin, Community Development Director for the City of Peoria. Once again, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, and I just, we really appreciate kind of getting the message out there about safe, quality housing in our community. If anyone's listening and you are experiencing issues with your apartment complex or the property you're living in, best way to let the city know, to get a code inspector or the police out there, is to go through Peoria Cares. You can call 494-2273 or go to the city's website and download the Peoria Cares app. Both are great opportunities to let us know, and staff gets to them pretty quickly.
After the break, click it or ticket. Welcome back to Week in Review. I'm Caleb Kelch in the WMBD Radio Newsroom. A click it or ticket enforcement campaign is very active in the community. Peoria police officers joined WMBD Radio's The Greg and Dan Show to discuss the campaign happening now through Labor Day. The effort is to help keep drivers and passengers safer on the road.
There was a release that came out the other day. Our friend Simone sent it out and said that the click it or ticket program is enforced from now all the way through Labor Day, all over the state of Illinois. It's 200 agencies involved in this, including the Peoria Police Department. And the effort is to keep us safer. We're driving, I think, anecdotally, we're driving different than we used to.
And more distracted than we ever have.
And we've got some officers in. We'll start with, Lieutenant Chad Oberly. Hi, Lieutenant Oberly. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
You are a traffic lieutenant. This is your purvey. This is your day-to-day. I can't imagine what it must be like for you to just drive as a pedestrian or a civilian and not go nuts.
Yeah, it can be frustrating seeing all the dangerous driving out there.
Is it worse than... How long have you been an officer?
I've been a police officer for over 29 years. Yeah. I spent 7 years as a traffic officer with our department, and I believe it has become worse.
And do you have a theory, private or otherwise? Is there a theory why it's worse?
Well, I think part of it is the distracted driving, cell phones and all that. We didn't have a lot of that back when I was
just telling you off air, I saw a guy, I could see a cell phone kind of mounted to his left, and he's driving, Greg, watching a movie. I'm like, that's nuts.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me, I guess. Speed, is speed worse than it used to be?
I don't know if it's worse. I think it's always been an issue.
Yeah.
So we do what we can to try to stop that, mitigate that, but I think it's always been an issue.
Okay, so one of our listeners lives on Sterling, kind of that area, and he said the number of people who run red lights, he goes, it's gotten bad. Now, here's my question, though. Going down Knoxville, there's a group of us who are doing 45, maybe 50, but we start to come to a light. Okay, and I don't know distance and conditions, but we're all looking around like we're all going, right? Because if one person puts on the brakes, there's going to be an accident. So there's a difference between using, or what I call massaging, the yellow. And I told my kids when they're driving, when you get a green, sit for 2 full seconds and watch, because someone may. So Where's the difference for us drivers? Where's the difference, and what are you really looking for?
Well, running a red light is running a red light, no matter how many people do it.
Guilty.
So,
You're guilty.
So if you cross over into that stop line or into the intersection when it's red,
And
that's
it turns,
a violation.
Okay, but what if it's yellow and then turns red?
Well, as long as you're past the stop line or into the intersection while it's yellow, that's okay.
Okay.
That's proceed with caution, so that's okay. But if it's red, that is a violation.
And we're seeing more of that.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Sergeant Chris White's here. He's in the traffic department too. How you doing, sir? Good to meet you.
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Well, your thoughts on all of this? What makes you, as an officer and as just a human out there? What do you worry about? When you see people driving, what are you worried most about these days?
Well, my biggest worry is just safety. Like you mentioned a couple things, those yellow to red lights. We see a lot of the turning left on red in front of cars that have the green. We see a lot of that. So just safety and awareness. You guys mentioned the distracted driving with the cell phones. Put your phones down. I mean, you can check that email. You can check that text message later. If you need to make a phone call, pull over to the side of the road.
Or you can talk to someone later.
Exactly. That's right.
Talk to me about seatbelts. Seatbelts has been the law for a long, long time in the state of Illinois. Most of us, I think, automatically we kind of just do it without thinking about it. But some people don't. Can you tell from your car that I'm not wearing a seatbelt?
Absolutely, we can tell. There's different things. I'm not going to reveal our secrets of what we look for. But yes, definitely, you can tell. Definitely, we can tell.
I love that you can tell, because when you see videos of people going, "No, I was wearing it. I just unbuckled it." Yeah. I saw you 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
That is hilarious.
One of the funny things with seatbelts, I might add, is that we find people often that have a buckled seatbelt, but the seatbelt is buckled not properly
behind them.
It's buckled behind them, and they think, "Well, my seatbelt was buckled."
That's because they don't want to hear that constant dinging.
That is
exactly.
Okay, man. It's okay. It doesn't hurt to wear your seatbelt. That cracks me up. Traffic Officer Mike Bischoff is here. Hi, Mike. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you.
So you're out there on the front lines every day pulling us over, right?
Yes,
That's okay.
sir.
Do people get mad at you? Primarily, because if you pulled me over today, Greg, you were going 12 over. I probably know I was doing that. And I'd be like, okay, I'm sorry.
I would say 9 times out of 10, I can get a thank you at the end of the stop, even if enforcement
Way to
action
go,
is taken.
Mike. Way to go.
Yeah.
Do you guys get worried? I'd like all three of you to chime in on this. I am a guy that likes to watch stuff on my phone, TikTok or Reels, and a lot of the algorithm that I get is traffic stops, where I see the officer come up with a cam, and then there's an exchange, and I get incensed about how weird people are. Do you think it's bad that that's out there? That do you watch those videos, Chris? Do you watch those videos?
I do not.
Okay. Do you watch them, Mike, at all?
Yeah, I watch some of them that pop up.
It's what I worry about. I worry that might be negative to you guys, like that we all get puffed up or something. And then, so the next time I'm going to talk to an officer, I'm going to say, "Yeah, well, you don't know the law," and then we have this whole thing. Chad, your thoughts on that?
I can see some positive and negative with it. The positive I see is it's a good training tool for us. I've shown a lot of our younger officers some of these videes, so we can learn.
Oh,
from
that's a good idea. Yeah.
So that's a big thing. Learn how to talk to the people who say the things in those videos, because that's the negative side, is sometimes those things catch on.
Okay, here's something that we don't understand. We talk about it semi-frequently on the radio, and that is that Dan and I come from an era of the 60s and 70s. We went to high school in the 70s, right? And I don't know if you guys know this, but people in the 70s smoked weed.
Yeah.
And now there is a weed that is different than the weed that happened when we were kids.
I was on Sheridan, and there's nobody there. It was like 10 in the morning. No cars, no people, and I could smell weed in my car. I had to look around to see if someone was in the back seat smoking.
It is so pungent and so apparent that it's happening. How do you handle that? How do you handle that? If you smell it as you're driving, it must happen to you. Is that enough cause to pull somebody over?
Well, the laws have changed on that recently.
Okay.
And the state of Illinois has made it a little more difficult to do it based on the smell alone. So what we look for is their driving habits to see if they're violating the law, having any dangerous driving or anything like that. So if there's a traffic violation, then certainly we can stop them and proceed with that knowledge.
Or Greg, if they can't see out of the car.
Well, yeah, the Cheech and Chong video.
I've seen that. Yeah.
Mike, I'm going to ask you, because you're out there on the front lines every day. When you see somebody and you pull them over, is there a test that you give to see if somebody is under the influence of weed? How does that work?
We use the same standardized field sobriety tests.
Oh, you do?
So there's a couple other
not
things.
Not a blood test necessarily or something like that?
That would come later on. If we do believe that there's some type of impairment there, we would take them down to the hospital and collect blood and urine if we're thinking that there's some type of drug involved rather than just being a standard alcohol DUI.
So, Sergeant, I'm going to ask you this question. Chief Dixon said to us 8 weeks ago, that the categories are running red lights, speeding, distracted, seatbelt. That's what he would like to focus on. Beyond that, impaired is a big one. DUI stuff. In your career, how long have you been an officer?
20 years.
20 years. In your 20 years, are we any smarter about drinking and driving than we used to be, or are we still doing it dumb?
I think we're more educated. It still happens. I would think that, now that you mentioned the cannabis usage, we have that element added onto it for the impairment side. But I think as far as like the alcohol side, we're more educated in that, and we've seen some different efforts in enforcement action towards that. But then we also have this cannabis use.
That's complicated, man. That is so complicated.
Yeah.
It's
like
unbelievable.
you said, it's kind of quite the process.
That does it for this edition of Week in Review. Join us every week to recap some of the biggest issues and events in Central Illinois on this Midwest communication station. Listen to the Week in Review podcast on WMBDradio.com or by downloading the free WMBD Radio app. I'm Caleb Kelch, WMBD Radio News.